Hello and welcome to this video in which we will analyze the aerial fights that took place between Pakistan and India, and during which India would have lost. A Rafale provided by Dassault a few years ago. It's an operation that took place called Operation Sindoor, which followed a terrorist attack that the Indians suffered on their soil, in which there were more than 26 deaths, and which was conducted by terrorist groups that are hosted in Pakistan and against which Pakistan does not want to react. So, initially, India tried to put pressure on Pakistan by cutting off water access, since the Indus River passes through there, and they are the ones who manage it, and so they have this dam. Pakistan's water access was reduced by 90% despite being absolutely vital for the country. It was considered a declaration of war by Pakistan, but still they did not react, and they did not destroy the terrorist training camps that had been clearly identified. And so India began preparing this assault to be able to bomb Pakistan. So you need to have a bit of a mindset of what's going on in both camps. Obviously, both countries have heavy air defense, especially Pakistan has a system equivalent to the S-300s, but supplied by China. They also have 150 SAS JF-17 planes, co-produced by China and Pakistan. They possess 76 aged F-16S and 150 Mirage 3 and Mirage 5 aircraft, some of which have nuclear capabilities. They also have about 100 Chengdu J-7, which are old devices, and they especially have about 30 J-10, which are the modern planes supplied by China, including long-range radar-range missiles called the PL-15. In contrast, India's army is significantly more formidable. They have over 300 MiG-29 and Sukhoi 30. They have 100 Tejas planes, which is a kind of local version, smaller than the Mirage. 2000, they have 100 Jaguars dedicated to ground attack. They have about 50 Mirage 2000. And above all, they have 36 Rafales to the F-3 standard, which has been delivered for a few years now, since it was the Rafale that won this international competition by eliminating the Mikoyan, 35, the Eurofighter, the Americans, etc. So it was the Rafale that had won. That's why they also bought the Rafale for their national navy, for the aircraft carriers. We have a great chance of getting new Rafale contracts in favor of India. So today, this operation, its objective was to hit terrorist infrastructures on Pakistani territory. And they say it, the Indians, they didn't want to hit anything else. That is to say, in their planning, they had not prepared the ground. In, for example, attacking Pakistani air bases to prevent their planes from taking off, they did not destroy the Pakistani air defense, and so they ventured on this mission. This large-scale bombing operation targeted at least 9 confirmed sites on Pakistani soil. According to the Indians themselves, the weapons that were used are both Scalp cruise missiles, which have a range that can go up to 300 kilometers away, and also glide bombs. The SM-2 Hammer, whose success is seen daily in Ukraine. Nevertheless, this means that the devices must approach within a few tens of kilometers of their target. And all this while staying above Indian airspace. Because there was a precedent, there were the attacks on Balakot, same condition. They wanted to attack a terrorist site, but this time they had penetrated the airspace to a Pakistani. A fighter plane had been intercepted, had been shot down, the pilot had been captured. He had been shown on Pakistani television before being returned to India, so it had the worst effect, and so this time, and it was also confirmed by Pakistan, the Indians did not enter Pakistani airspace. They carried out all their attacks from a distance while staying in their own airspace. However, missiles like the Scalp can reach targets up to 300 kilometers away, and these are the deepest strikes that have taken place between the two countries since 1971.
Well, we repeat, these are two countries that have nuclear weapons today.
Afterwards, I had many exchanges with pilots and specialists from various countries. First of all, I have already talked to you about this mission planning, which is quite, I'm not going to say erratic, but in any case, the fact of engaging a large number of planes, that is to say, we are still talking about several dozen planes. The Pakistanis say that in total there were 150 planes flying at the same time. The Indians, of course, say they had about 30 devices that carried out their mission, which only lasted 20 minutes of sending these bombs and these missiles, the gliding bombs and cruise missiles. But regardless, they got closer without having destroyed the Indian air defense, without having any cover on their part, to intercept, to destroy the fighter planes that were sent by Pakistan, because they forbade themselves to hit Pakistani military infrastructures, to hit Pakistani civilian infrastructures, power centers, etc., or even economic centers. So it was really 100% focused on the terrorist groups, and presumably without any intention of engaging the Pakistani side, even if they themselves were launching their fighter planes. And that's certainly their mistake, that's certainly their difficulty. It's that when you enter a protection bubble with fighter planes like the J-10, which has the ability to fire missiles over 100 kilometers away, and that on your side, you are not ready to engage in combat to fire back, obviously you run the risk of putting the planes in danger, and that's what we see. It's that Pakistan claims to have shot down 5 Indian fighter jets with 3 Rafales, MiG-29 and Sukhoi 30. Those are Pakistani announcements. Obviously, the evidence is not exactly the same, and the Indians, for their part, acknowledge the loss of 3 fighter jets. Although we still cannot identify them today, the images we are beginning to receive are helping. We can recognize, for example, here debris that corresponds to the ejector seat of a MiG-29. We have images that would correspond to a Rafale. There are several. The first one is the top of this fin in which there is a serial number. But the photo itself is questioned. We still don't know today if it's true or not. Firstly, because the registration does not seem to systematically correspond to what we can see on Indian planes when they fly. But above all, there are many elements of suspicion that this image may have been altered. I will include all the links in the video comments for you to watch. However, there is a second image that more closely matches the Rafale, and in this case we actually have video footage. It's the rear of an M88 Rafale engine. And there we specifically recognize the nuts, the screws, the assembly, the shape. It really corresponds very, very well to a Rafale, so we have a very good chance it's a Rafale. At least have been destroyed by Pakistan in the Indian Air Force. The advantage, for the Indians, is that not having crossed the border, the plane was intercepted and shot down over their own territory. That is, the Rafale fell on their territory. There are 2 advantages. The Pakistanis, the Chinese, the Russians are not going to recover the debris of this plane. The second key factor is that the Indians have the chance to make the test vanish rapidly, despite the fact that we have some images that are already available, but overall, as a technological leak, today there is not really any risk. The second plane, on which there would also be debris, is what we see here, so the image is a little blurry. But it would be the remains of a Mika missile. And there, on the other hand, this Mika missile, we see that it is still attached to its pylon, simply with this simple pylon. We don't know if it's a Mirage 2000 or a Rafale, but in any case, it's necessarily a plane produced by France and used by India in the context of this war. However, we don't know what the distance is between this engine and these debris. Could it be the same crash site within a few kilometers? Possibly debris falling left and right if the plane was destroyed in flight? Or do we really have 2 separate sites? For now, to my knowledge, we don't have any geographical information which would allow us to know if there is 1 or 2 French origin planes that have been destroyed. A Rafale and potentially a second one, either a Rafale or a Mirage. 2000, is everything in the same place? So we will know that soon. On the Pakistani side, in terms of announcements, they claim to have shot down these planes. They also have proof of having intercepted kamikaze drones. We see debris from Harop, which are Israeli, with a range that can go up to 1,000 kilometers. We also see Wormet, which are of Polish origin, and they announced that the Rafale, they intercepted it with the J-10C fighter jets, so the most modern version of what they have in terms of fighter jets, and with the PL-15E missile, of which we found debris that proves which missile it is. The missile has a maximum range of 90 miles in optimal conditions. The Indian Rafale is equipped with a Meteor missile, which has been proven effective multiple times. Under optimal conditions, it can fire at a distance of 124 miles with a no escape zone estimated around 43 miles, meaning a shot at 43 miles is inescapable. No one can escape. Despite all the maneuvers that can be made, despite all the decoys and countermeasure systems that can be used to avoid all these missiles. So the question that will now arise is, did the Indians respect or did they apply the usual rules of engagement of planes to conduct a raid? It's going to be simple. Either we do penetration at very, very low altitude, flying very low in the valleys. For example, to be under the radar coverage that we will have in front of us so as not to be detected. to deliver its ammunition, especially the ammunition that requires getting closer, like gliding bombs. Then we turn around the same way, staying as low as possible, hoping not to be identified. They didn't do it because they didn't enter Pakistani airspace. The second option is to strike from above, likely what they did using gliding bombs from a distance. But in that case, the Pakistani air defense needs to be destroyed first. Then intelligence will also be a question. Did the Indians verify that the Pakistanis had not launched their fighter planes? Did they themselves deploy their radar planes to specifically check that the Pakistanis were not taking off? In which case, they could have waited or shifted their mission or intercepted some devices or jammed them. Numerous methods exist to diminish the operational performance of both the aircraft and its opposing air force. These questions remain unanswered. The near certainty today is that a Rafale was indeed shot down, and the near certainty we have today is that it was caused by poor planning of this mission and, of course, poor intelligence. So, in a few weeks, I think we might know a little more, if all the evidence is not erased by both sides. And then we will follow this news. But it's not the major fatal blow to the Rafale as it's presented by the anti-Rafale. In general, including the pro F-35, that planes in real operational war conditions are shot down, it's normal. We even remember the stealth plane, F-117, that was shot down over Serbia at the time. Just because a plane is very good and very efficient doesn't mean it's invulnerable. That's a certainty in every country in the world. I've been saying this for a long time. I think that Chinese planes have surpassed the quality of Russian planes for a few years now, especially in terms of electronics, operational capacity. And it's the same thing also for the missiles. So we should not look down on the Chinese, the Russians. Now, we know that they are far surpassed, and we see it competition after competition. Even the Sukhoi 35 loses all competitions when confronted with foreign planes. Brazil, South Korea, and other countries where it participated in competitions. However, Chinese planes are of high quality nowadays. Especially in electronics, that is to say the sensors, the range of missiles, etc., the quality of radars. They have electronic scanning radars and active antennas that Russia is incapable of producing. We don't have any today. So overall, we are still dealing with a Chinese and therefore Pakistani Air Force that is improving in quality. However, no one believes that Chinese planes equal the Rafale. It's simply in the use of the plane where mistakes can be made that can lead to losses. I hope you liked it. It's quite brief with minimal editing due to my busy schedule today, but you requested a quick analysis. I hope it was comprehensive enough, and I will put some links in the comments to this video. All right, I'll see you very soon. Subtitling ST 501.